Thus, with tears in his eyes, he somehow or other chanted the holy name of Narayan.
Okay, we just read that in the last canto, even if you accidentally do it. What? Okay.
Oh, I'm so excited to see what happens.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
What is your path to Dharma?
Welcome, welcome, dear friends. This is the Path to Dharma podcast. I am Shannon. I'm here with Shay, my beautiful daughter, reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. At the moment, we have been, wow, we've been reading a lot of stuff. But right now, what we're doing is going through the Bhagavatam, reading it real time. We just wrapped up Canto 5, and we are about to get into the sixth canto. Let's go. How come you're muted suddenly?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, now you are. Now you're good.
Okay. I was kind of talking softly, so maybe that's
Okay,
why.
okay. All right.
My internet is was lagging a little bit when I was getting on here, so just FYI. All
Okay.
right. It's Canto. We haven't even cracked it open. We wanted to do it live.
Yeah, I
Um,
I just took it off my bookshelf behind me, and I really have tried not to even look at the pictures.
I brought it back to my recording spot last night, so I would be ready. And I did look at the back. I did look at the back cover as I was doing that. Um,
Yes. Wow. Wow.
fun.
Whoa. That is nutso. Look at this thing.
Yeah, it looks,
Obviously somebody's getting pulled out of their body by like some. Okay, remember in the last canto, we were just reading about the hellish planets and how Yamaraja has these like minions or whatever. I can't remember what they're called that he sends out to basically arrest you upon your death. Look at what's
yes,
happening in this picture.
associates. I
But
think.
look at all the other, but like there's something like what's going on here? There's like a battle.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. So
I
interested
love it.
in.
I love it. Okay, I'm really excited. Okay, so like on the front cover, whoa, that looks like Garuda. Possible, like what is happening here? What's happening
That
here?
looks like Buddha, but also why is it you have a duck head?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Is that Vishnu? Like, who is that? Who's like walking up the? Where are they? They're on some cool planet somewhere. Okay, I'm excited.
So excited.
I am excited. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, sixth canto, prescribed duties for mankind. Hey,
Ooh,
I'm loving this. This is really good. Just looking at the table of contents. Chapter
right?
one, the history of the life of Ajāmila.
Ajāmila.
Ajāmila. Ooh, look at the pics. Oh, that
Oh my
front.
gosh, let's.
Okay, it explains it. Explains it. The order carriers of Yamaraja were snatching the soul from the core of Ajamila's heart, but with resounding voices, the messengers of Lord Vishnu forbade them to do so. Oh, okay. So that's going to be good. And the other one on the other picture we looked at on the front, on the bank of the Ganges at Hardwar, Ajamila gave up his material body and regained his original spiritual body, which was suitable for the association of the Lord. Then, accompanied by the order carriers of Lord Vishnu, Ajamila boarded a golden airplane for his journey back to the Lord's abode. Okay, so that's like his arrival at Vaikuntha, perhaps. Okay, this should be good.
Or some.
Another very enlightened soul, another enlightened being. Um, I'm excited. Okay. Ooh, look at this. Look at Vishnu sleeping in the causal ocean. Here, if you're listening and you're not
Ooh.
watching. It's that you've seen this art before, I'm sure, where Vishnu is just like floating in all these bubbles of universe
Yeah.
onto him.
Oh my gosh. No, the
Okay,
picture looks so good, but we should get started with the first chapter.
let's get some obeisances going. And yeah, let's get into it.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one must first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan. unto Nārāyaṇa Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is established as an irrevocable fact.
Fact.
Okay. Sixth Canto, here we are. Chapter 1, The History of the Life of Ajāmila. Text 1.
Text
Start?
1. Maharaja Parikshit said, okay, so there we're still on the bank of the river here. So this is our settings. And Sutta Gosvāmī has just laid down 5 cantos worth of info at this point, let me just say. Imagine everything that he's taken in. Okay. Maharaja Parikshit said, O my lord, O Śukadeva Gosvāmī, you have already described the path of liberation. By following that path, one is certainly elevated gradually to the highest planetary systems, Brahmaloka, from which one is promoted to the spiritual world along with Lord Brahma. Thus, one's repetition of birth and death in the material world ceases. Okay, once you reach Brahmaloka, then you're off of the wheel of time.
O great sage Śukadeva Gosvāmī, unless the living entity is freed from the infection of the material modes of nature, he receives different types of bodies in which to enjoy or suffer, and according to the body, he is understood to have various incarnations.
Inclinations.
Oh, inclinations. By following these inclinations, he traversed the path called Parikshit Marga, by which one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, as you have already described in Canto 3.
You have also described, at the end of the 5th canto, the varieties of hellish life that result from impious activities, and you have described in the 4th canto the first Manvantara, which was provided over by Svayambhuva Manu, the son of Lord Brahma.
Yeah. My dear Lord, you have described the dynasty and characteristics of King Priyavrata and King Uttanapada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead created this material world with various universes, planetary systems, planets and stars. Thank you, sir. With varied lands, seas, oceans, mountains, rivers, gardens, and trees, all with different characteristics. These are divided among this planet Earth, the luminaries in the sky, and the lower planetary systems. You have very clearly described these planets and the entities who live on them.
Bruce is feeling away about this. You can see his tail. That's all you can see from what I'm looking at.
Again, so.
Text 6. Oh, greatly fortunate and opulent Śukadeva Gosvāmī, now kindly tell me how human beings may be saved from having to enter hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pains. Do tell, Śukadeva Gosvāmī, do tell.
Śukadeva Gosvāmī replied, My dear king, if before one's next death, whatever impious acts one has performed in this life with his mind, words, and body are not counteracted through proper atonement according to the description of the Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras, one will certainly enter the hellish planet after death and undergo terrible suffering, as I have previously described to you.
Okay, so that's slightly stressful, right? A little bit.
Keep going.
Okay, yeah, right. Therefore, before one's next death comes, as long as one's body is strong enough, one should quickly adopt the process of atonement according to the Shastra. Otherwise, one's time will be lost, and the reactions of the sins will increase. As an expert physician diagnoses and treats a disease according to its gravity, one should undergo atonement according to the severity of one's sins.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
I mean, yeah, it does. It does. Can I just slightly pause? Because I'll tell you where I get the slight pause from that.
Sure.
And it's this whole Abrahamic religion idea of you have to do something to basically get back to heaven. Like you're just not automatically in by default. You're this terrible sinner and you need Jesus first of all to get you in, but like you have to do
Well,
something.
well, isn't in the Abrahamic religions, you just already are kind of born a sinner?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And then you have to actually
And
like
here, well, at least here, it's like this was done from yourself by your own impious activities.
100% true. 100% true. I guess it's my own religious trauma popping up. Basically, of being like, oh man, there's like stuff I have to do now to not
Right.
go to the hellish planets. Ay.
Right.
But
Well,
like,
of course there is, though,
but of but of course there is. I mean,
Right.
of course there is.
I see what you mean, though.
That
I
does
do.
not negate this, vibration of love that actually like is what the divine is consisting of. So it
Exactly.
doesn't negate that. It's just that's like what's going off in my previously programmed head. That's it. Okay, where were we? Sorry.
Text 10. Sometimes one who is very alert as to not commit sinful acts is
Wait,
victimized
wait,
by
wait.
sin.
I feel like you skipped it. You skipped one on page 13.
Oh, yes, I did. Maharaja Parikshit said, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a crime is punished by the government and rebuked by people in general, and because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. What is the value of such atonement?
Yes, King Parikshit. Yes, I want to know because it does feel like that a little bit.
It does.
Sometimes one who is very alert so as to not commit sinful acts is victimized by sinful life again. I therefore consider this process of repeated sinning and atoning to be useless. It is like the bathing of an elephant, for an elephant cleanses itself by taking a full bath, but then throws dust over its head and body as soon as it returns to the land.
Ah,
I feel like yeah, I feel you. I feel it. Yeah, I feel that.
yeah. Sukadeva Goswāmī, the son of Vasudeva, the Veda, the son of Vedavyasa, answered, my dear king, since acts meant to neutralize impious activities are also fruitive, they will not release one from the tendency to act fruitively. Persons who subject themselves to the rules and regulations of atonement are not at all intelligent. Indeed, they are in the mode of darkness. Unless one is freed from the mode of ignorance, trying to counteract one's action through another is useless because this will not uproot one's desires. Thus, even though one may superficially seem pious, he will undoubtedly be prone to act impiously. Therefore, real atonement is enlightenment in perfect knowledge, Vedanta, by which one understands the supreme absolute truth.
Okay, I like this because this is kind of what I was saying about the whole Abrahamic religion requiring you to do something, and me just being
Yeah.
like, I'm not sure. But I feel like what he's getting at is once you go through this process of submitting to the divine, then you no longer have to have this transactional, I'm doing something bad, therefore I have to fix it. Because you're not even drawn to those things anymore. You start to detach and you're not doing the fruitive activities for the fruit any longer.
Right,
Is this
right.
what he's
Well,
getting at?
and that's the whole like you're no longer necessarily creating karma.
Right, that's the idea. Okay, I like this.
Right.
Text 12. My dear king, if it does, did I just take your spot? Did I just?
Nope,
Okay,
nope.
sorry.
I don't.
Sorry. Okay. My dear king, if a diseased person eats the pure, uncontaminated food prescribed by a physician, he is gradually cured, and the infection of disease can no longer touch him. Similarly, if one follows the regulative principles of knowledge, he gradually progresses toward liberation from material contamination. Yeah.
To concentrate the mind, one must observe a life of celibacy and not fall down. One must undergo the austerity of voluntarily giving up sense enjoyment. One must then control the mind and senses, give charity, be truthful, clean and nonviolent, follow the regulative principles, and regularly chant the holy name of the Lord. Thus, a sober and faithful person who knows the religious principles is temporarily purified of all the sins performed with his body, words, and mind. These sins are like the dried leaves of creepers beneath a bamboo tree, which may be burned by fire, although their roots remain to grow again at the first opportunity.
Only a rare person who has adopted complete, unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. This makes me think of Jada Bharata, where he was born and
Right.
he's like, I'm not messing with any of this attachment business
Yeah.
to
Let them
anything.
think I'm dumb and stupid.
Right. I don't even
Yeah.
care.
My dear king, if a sinful person engages in the service of a bona fide devotee of the Lord and thus learns how to dedicate his life unto the lotus feet of Krishna, he can be completely purified. One cannot be purified merely by undergoing austerity, penance, brahmacharya, and other methods of atonement I had previously described. Those aren't enough. You must dedicate your life to the
Okay.
Lord.
Right. Okay. All right. The path followed by pure devotees who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualifications is certainly the most auspicious path in this material world. It is free from fear and it is authorized by the Shastras.
My dear king, as a pot containing liquor cannot be purified even if washed in the waters of many rivers, non-devotees cannot be purified by process of atonement even if they perform them very well.
I mean, do you feel like your soul evolves to a point where you're even able to become a devotee, though? Like, how many lives have we lived where now we're able to get into a state of devotion? Where I wonder how many lifetimes we had to go through material attachments to where we just were fully focused on our material existence of getting money or children or power or whatever it is.
And in the same breath, I say, I think I've definitely lived lifetimes where I've been maybe like on the outside looking more like a pure devotee and yet I'm still here. I'm here again, you know?
Totally. I feel like if we weren't devotees in
It's
prior
like
lives, we
exactly
wouldn't be having this happen right now.
right.
Right.
Definitely not. But it's kind of like what he's saying. It's like it doesn't matter if from the outside you're looking like a pious devotee. It's like,
It's
are
true.
you really? Are you really doing the things?
It's true.
Or are you doing those things because you're afraid of the hellish planets?
I also feel like there's a slight amount of unmasking of gurus and spiritual figures right now, where the hypocrisy is slightly coming out, and we're starting to see some things that we haven't before. So keep an eye on that. The astrology definitely supports that, where things will come out, and we'll start to see the sides of people that we looked up to, and we'll say, maybe we
Right.
shouldn't. Okay, let's go to text 19. Although not having fully realized Krishna, persons who have even once surrendered completely unto his lotus feet and who have become attracted to his name, form, qualities, and pastimes are completely freed of all sinful reactions, for they have thus accepted the true method of atonement. Even in dreams, such surrendered souls do not see Yamaraja or his order carriers who are equipped with the ropes to bind the sinful. Wow. Okay, like even in your dreams, you're enlightened.
Right.
Of course, it makes sense though.
Yeah. It makes me think of my dream. This is just a very quick side note. I had a dream last night that I was like running to go get this cake that I really wanted. And I was going to all these different floors of this building trying to look for this cake. And then I finally got to where I was going. I was like, there was like 1 minute left. They were about to close, and I ordered the cake, and they're like, it's going to be $77. And I was like, well, I just wanted one for just one slice. And they're like, you can't just buy one slice. You have to buy the whole cake. Are you going to take the whole cake or are you going to take nothing? And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Am I really going to pay $77 for this carrot cake? And then I was like, you know what? You don't need it. Yes, you did all that running around. Yes, you rushed here. It's just a material thing. You don't actually need the carrot cake. Walk away.
I love it. I love it. Even in your dream world, you're detaching.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? That's a good sign.
That's a great
That,
sign. Absolutely, it is.
all right, text 20.
Text 20.
In this regard, learned scholars and saintly persons describe a very old historical incident involving a discussion between the order carrier of Lord Vishnu and those of Yamaraja. Please hear this from me. Here we go.
Yes. Oh my God, this is the good stuff. Do tell. In the city known as Kankyakuja, there was a Brahmin named Ajāmila who married a prostitute maidservant and lost all his Brahmanical qualities because of the association with that low-class woman. This is starting good already.
Um,
Wow. Okay, a Brahmin marries a prostitute.
this fallen Brahmin, Ajamila, gave trouble to others by arresting them, by cheating them in gambling, or by directly plundering them. This was the way he earned his livelihood and maintained his wife and children.
Interesting. My dear king, while he thus spent time in abominable, sinful activities to maintain his family of many sons, 88 years of his life passed by.
That old man, Ajamila, had 10 sons, of whom the youngest was a baby named Narayan. Narayan? Narayan?
Narayan.
Okay. Since Narayan was the youngest of all sons, he was naturally very dear to both his father and his mother.
Because of the child's broken language and awkward movements, old Ajamila was very much attached to him. He always took care of the child and enjoyed the child's activities.
When Ajamila chewed food and ate it, he called the child to chew and eat, and when he drank, he called the child to drink also. Always engaged in taking care of the child and calling his name, Narayan, Ajamila could not understand that his own time was now exhausted and that death was upon him.
It reminds me of the baby deer. When the time of death arrived for foolish Ajamila, he began thinking exclusively of his son Narayan.
Ajamila then saw three awkward persons with deformed bodily features, fierce, twisted faces, and hair standing erect on their bodies. With ropes in their hands, they had come to take him away to the abode of Yamaraja. When he saw them, he was extremely bewildered, and because of attachment to his child, who was playing a short distance away, Ajamila began to call him loudly by his name. Thus, with tears in his eyes, he somehow or other chanted the holy name of Narayan.
Okay, we just read that in the last canto, even if you accidentally do it. What? Okay.
Oh, I'm so excited to see what happens.
Oh my goodness. Okay. My dear king, the order carries of Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, immediately arrived when they heard the holy name of their master from the mouth of the dying Ajamila, who had certainly chanted without offense because he had chanted in complete anxiety.
The order carriers of Yamaraja were snatching the soul from the core of the heart of Ajamila, the husband of the prostitute. But with resounding voices, the messengers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, forbade them to do so.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay. When the order carriers of Yamaraja, the son of the sun god, were thus forbidden, they replied, "Who are you, sirs, that have the audacity to challenge the jurisdiction of Yamaraja?"
Dear sirs, whose servants are you? Where have you come from? And why are you forbidding us to touch the body of Ajamila? Are the demigods from the are you demigods from the heavenly planets? Are you sub-demigods, or are you the best of devotees?
The order carriers of Yamaraja said, "Your eyes are just like the petals of lotus flowers, dressed in yellow silken garments, decorated with garlands of lotuses, and wearing very attractive helmets on your heads and earrings on your ears. You all appear fresh and youthful. Your four long arms are decorated with bows and quivers of arrows, and with swords, clubs, conch shells, discs, and lotus flowers. Your effulgence has dissipated the darkness of this place with extraordinary illumination. Now, sirs, why are you obstructing us?"
Śukadeva Gosvāmī continued, Being thus addressed by the messengers of Yamaraja, the servants of Vasudeva smiled and spoke the following words in voices as deep as the sound of rumbling clouds.
Hmm. The blessed messengers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, said, if you are actually servants of Yamaraja, you must explain to us the meaning of religious principles and the symptoms of irreligion.
What is the process of punishing others? Who are the actual candidates for punishment? Are all karmis engaged in fruitive activities punishable, or only some of them?
This is so interesting. It's like they're meeting the people that like pull the souls down to the other direction and they're like interested.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me. Me too. I'm interested too. The Yamadutas replied, that which is prescribed in the Vedas constitutes dharma, the religious principles, and the opposite of that is irreligion. The Vedas are directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nārayaṇa, and are self-born. Thus we have heard from Yamaraja. This we have heard from Yamaraja.
The supreme cause of all causes, Narayan, is situated in his own abode in the spiritual world. But nevertheless, he controls the entire cosmic manifestation according to the three modes of material nature: Sattva-guna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna. In this way, all living entities are awarded different qualities, different names, different duties according to the Varna Shrama institution, and different forms. Thus, Narayan is the cause of the entire cosmic manifestation.
The sun, fire, sky, air, demigods, moon, evening, day, night, directions, water, land, and Supersoul himself all witness the activities of the living entity.
The candidates for punishment are those who are confirmed by these many witnesses to have deviated from their prescribed regulative duties. Everyone engaged in activities is suitable to be subjected to punishment according to his sinful activities.
O inhabitants of Vaikuntha, you are sinless, but those within this material world are all karmis, whether acting piously or impiously. Both kinds of action are possible for them because they are contaminated by the three modes of nature and must act accordingly. One who has accepted a material body cannot be inactive, and sinful action is inevitable for one acting under the modes of material nature. Therefore, all the living entities within this material world are punishable.
In proportion to the extent of one's religious or irreligious actions in this life, one must enjoy or suffer the corresponding reactions to his karma in the next.
O best of the demigods, we can see three different varieties of life which are due to the contamination of the three modes of nature. The living entities are thus known as peaceful, restful, and foolish, as happy, unhappy, or in between, or as religious, irreligious, or semi-religious. We can deduce that in the next life, these three kinds of material nature will similarly act.
Just as springtime in the present indicates the nature of springtimes in the past and future, so this life of happiness, distress, or a mixture of both gives evidence concerning the religious and irreligious activities of one's past and future lives. As we've heard, yes.
Yes, we've heard. The omnipotent Yamaraja is as good as Lord Brahma, for while situated in his own abode or in everyone's heart like the Paramatma, he mentally observes the past activities of a living entity and thus understands how the living entity will act in future lives. Right, because they can see all of your lives, all of it. So
Right.
they can tell. It's like when you raise a child and you watch them and you get to know them and you start to see, you can predict what they're going to do in almost any situation, how they're going to react, what they're going to do and say, because you know them. So can you imagine of watching a soul for how many lifetimes? Of
Right.
course, Yamaraja knows what we're going to do. Of course.
Right. Right. As a sleeping person acts according to the body manifested in his dreams and accepts it to be himself, so one identifies with his present body, which he acquired because of his past religious or irreligious actions, and is unable to know his past or future lives.
Right. The subtle body is endowed with 16 parts. the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, the 5 working senses, the 5 objects of sense gratification, and the mind. This subtle body is an effect of the 3 modes of material nature. It is composed of insurmountably strong desires, and therefore it causes the living entity to transmigrate from one body to another in human life, animal life, and life as a demigod. When the living entity gets the body of a demigod, he is certainly very jubilant. When he gets a human body, he is always in lamentation. And when he gets the body of an animal, he's always afraid. In all conditions, however, he is actually miserable. His miserable condition is called samsriti, or transmigration in material life.
You skipped one. So I'm just going to go back and
Dang it. Okay, you're going to go
did
back.
beautifully with that. So I'm just going to read the one right before that.
Yep.
Above the 5 senses of perception, the 5 working senses, and the 5 objects of the senses is the mind, which is the 16th element. Above the mind is the 17th element, the soul, the living being himself, who, in cooperation with the other 16, enjoys the material world alone. The living being enjoys 3 kinds of situations, namely happy, distressful, and mixed.
This is very true. Okay.
Okay, then your beautiful thing you just said.
Yes, now we're
Now
to
text
text 52. Sorry. The foolish embodied living entity, inept at controlling his senses and mind, is forced to act according to the influence of the modes of material nature against his desires. He is like a silkworm that uses its own saliva to create a cocoon and then becomes trapped in it with no possibility of getting out. The living entity traps himself in a network of his own fruitive activities and then can find no way to release himself. Thus, he is always bewildered and repeatedly he dies. Yeah.
Not a single living entity can remain unengaged even for a moment. One must act by his natural tendencies according to the 3 modes of material nature, because this natural tendency forcibly makes him work in a particular way.
The fruitive activities a living being performs, whether pious or impious, are the unseen cause for the fulfillment of his desires. This unseen cause is the root for the living entity's different bodies. Okay, wait, this is getting deep, and I really want to read that again and make sure I really understand what's being said.
Yeah.
The fruitive activities a living being performs, whether pious or impious, are the unseen cause for the fulfillment of his desires. Okay, yep. This unseen cause is the root for the living entity's different bodies. Because of his intense desire, the living entity takes birth in a particular family and receives a body which is either like that of his mother or like that of his father. The gross and subtle bodies are created according to his desire. Okay, it's a desire, yes. It's really interesting because the type of astrology I do is evolutionary astrology, or what I've been studying lately. And the whole concept behind this is that one of the planets, namely Pluto, represents desire, and that the soul's fully, like the engine of the soul, basically is this desire. It's a desire to experience, it's a desire to evolve. And this is exactly what they're saying here, which it's like that desire that causes us to pick a certain body, a certain life. So these bodies that we've chosen, this family that we've chosen, we've done it for a certain reason. We wanted to get a particular experience out of this.
Right. And not only that, but it's creating our current bodies are being created by our actual desires in our minds right now.
Right.
Too.
And our next life is being created right now based on what we are fulfilling and our current and our what desires get fulfilled in this life. This is so good. Okay, where are we?
5. Since the living entity is associated with material nature, he is in an awkward position. But if in the human form of life he is taught how to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, this position can be overcome.
It's like both that easy and that difficult.
Right.
Right? Okay. Text 56 and 7. In the beginning, this Brahmin named Ajāmila studied all the Vedic literatures. He was a reservoir of good character, good conduct, and good qualities. Firmly established in executing all the Vedic injunctions, he was very mild and gentle, and he kept his mind and senses under control. Furthermore, he was always truthful. He knew how to chant the Vedic mantras, and he was also very pure. Ajāmila was very respectful to his spiritual master, the fire god, guests, and the elderly members of his household. Indeed, he was free from false prestige. He was upright, benevolent to all living being entities, and well behaved. He would never speak nonsense or envy anyone.
Once this Brahmin, Ajamila, following the orders of his father, went to the forest to collect fruit, flowers, and two kinds of grass called samit and kusa. On the way home, he came upon a Sudra, a very lusty, fourth-class man who was shamelessly embracing and kissing a prostitute. The Sudra was smiling, singing, and enjoying as if this were proper behavior. Both the Sudra and the prostitute were drunk. The prostitute's eyes were rolling in intoxication, and her dress had become loose. Such was the condition in which Ajamila saw them.
The Shudra, his arm decorated with turmeric power, was embracing the prostitute. When Ajamila saw her, the dormant, lusty desires in his heart awakened, and in illusion he fell under their control. Baby
As
deer.
far as possible, yeah. As far as possible, he patiently tried to remember the instructions of the sastras and not even to see a woman. With the help of this knowledge and his intellect, he tried to control his lusty desires, but because of the force of Cupid within his heart, he failed to control his mind.
In the same way that the sun and moon are eclipsed by a low planet, the Brahmin lost all his good sense. Taking advantage of this situation, he always thought of the prostitute, and within a short time, he took her as a servant in his house and abandoned all the regulative principles of a Brahmin.
Thus, Ajamila began spending whatever money he had inherited from his father to satisfy the prostitute with various material presentations so that she would remain pleased with him. He gave up all his Brahminical activities to satisfy the prostitute.
Have you heard that saying, like the heart wants what it wants?
Yes.
This is what it slightly feels like. Against your own logical mind, even. If you've ever gone for something that you're like, I don't know, I want that. This is what it feels like. Okay, text 65. Because his intelligence was pierced by the lustful glance of the prostitute, the victimized Brahmin Ajamila engaged in sinful acts in her association. He even gave up the company of his very beautiful, excuse me, his very beautiful young wife, who came from a very respectable Brahmin family.
Although born of a Brahmin family, this rascal, bereft of intelligence because of the prostitute's association, earned money somehow or other, regardless of whether properly or improperly, and used it to maintain the prostitute's sons and daughters.
This Brahmin irresponsibly spent his long lifetime transgressing all the rules and regulations of the Holy Scriptures, living extravagantly and eating food prepared by a prostitute. Therefore, he is full of sins. He is unclean and he is addicted to forbidden activities.
This man, Ajamila, did not undergo atonement. Therefore, because of his sinful life, we must take him into the presence of Yamaraja for punishment. There, according to the extent of his sinful acts, he will be punished and thus purified.
Wow. Okay. That's the end of chapter 1. It's starting off good. Really, really good.
I feel like this is the story that we needed to hear. I mean, obviously they did this for a reason, right? After the
Right.
last canto, we definitely had, or I had questions about like, oh my gosh, am I going to go to a hellish planet? You know, so
Right.
perfect story to see what happens. Yeah, to answer some questions that we may have had from the last canto.
Right. We already were planning on calling out Krishna and Narayan at our death anyway, so that's like
Amen.
ay, ay, ay. And I noticed it's 5:55, and I love that. Yes. I think this is probably because it's 5:55. I know you have to get about your day, so we're going to wrap this episode up. Thank you so much for listening and reading with us, and I'm really excited to get into this canto. It's starting off hot.
Yep. All right, until next time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Love and blessings to all.